I've been hit with a cold or hay fever or maybe a combination of the two, but whatever it is, I feel like my sinuses and my eyeballs hate me right now. Hey guys, it's Jamie and welcome back to another video. A part 2 video, which is something I don't think I've ever done before. Around a year ago, I made a little video called Awkward Trans Guy Things. Or at least I think that's what I called it. I'm pretty sure it is. Link in the description box if you want to check that out first. And I said at the time that it wasn't an exhaustive list of awkward things about being a trans guy. So, welcome to Awkward Trans Guy Things, numero dos. Number 2. Awkward. I should have just stuck with English because I can't speak any other languages. Apparently there's lots of awkward things about being a trans guy, or maybe I'm just an incredibly awkward person so therefore can think of lots of things that seem awkward. But anyway, here are some more things that I think are awkward and have heard other people say are awkward, and hopefully you guys will relate and maybe laugh at a few of them. So, up first, number 1, not relating to guy things. So this normally happens when you're talking to like a group of other guys or maybe just one other guy or something and you're just laughing and joking, and then they bring up something that you just can't relate to but they expect you to relate to because they don't know you're trans. Like being kicked in the balls. I always just envisage that scene from She's the Man where the football hits her in the crotch and everyone's like ooh. And I remember this one time this sort of thing happened to me. I was with a group of friends and it was all girls except me and this one other guy. And for some reason, the topic of peeing at urinals came up in conversation. Don't ask, I have no idea how. And he doesn't know I'm trans, and he turns to me and says, "Don't you just hate it when you relax a little bit too much and you fart whilst you're peeing?" And I was like, yeah, happens to me all the time. And really, I literally have no idea what it's like to relax a little bit too much and fart whilst peeing at urinal because I've never used one. I do, however, know what it's like to fart whilst peeing sitting down and have your fart like reverberate around the toilet bowl. Number 2, talking about something in your childhood or relating to something now that guys typically wouldn't have done or be able to relate to. That was a really long description. So these are things that might make people who don't know you're trans do a double take and be like, how did you do that? Why, how do you know about that? Or how did you experience that? Because they're things that only guys would experience if they're trans guys, really. It's that situation where you're in conversation with people and you let slip what school you went to and you happen to go to an all-girls school, or you talk about your experience being in Brownies or Girl Scouts or some other kind of all-female girl group thing. Or you accidentally relate when somebody's talking about period cramps and everyone's just like, huh? Now, I'm not shy about being trans, I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I don't just go around like mentioning it in conversation when people don't know. And sometimes it's easier just to avoid the topic if they're not somebody you're gonna see again or whatever. And so occasionally I'll be in like conversation. It's happened a couple times in like job scenarios and things, and just talking to people about where I'm from and just questions about growing up, like when you get to know somebody. And it's like, what secondary school did you go to? And I went to an all-girls secondary school that literally has school for girls in the name. It's kind of an awkward one, so I typically just tell people that I went to a different secondary school in the local area, which is technically true because I went there for a term in my first year. But then it has happened where that person also went to that school and they're like, I don't recognise you. And I'm just like, even if we did actually go to the same school, you wouldn't recognise me anyway. Number 3. I think this is one of the ones I find the most awkward. And it's when someone introduces you to somebody using your birth name and female pronouns. So this is like when a friend or a family member or somebody else who knows you're trans and either does this deliberately or just as an innocent mistake introduces you to somebody new using your birth name and female pronouns. And you're standing there having the hardest internal cringe, like, why? And when you're pre-T, it can lead to the age-old question of to correct or not to correct. It's like, do you follow up and reintroduce yourself with the correct name and pronouns, or do you just stand there silently, internally screaming? Number 4? 4? Let's go with 4. Being pre-T and passing until you open your mouth. I mean, being pre-T is awkward in general, but this is just narrowing it down a little bit, and is something that I found really, really awkward and uncomfortable when I was pre-T, because I kind of passed pretty well. I have always been quite tall, and I just passed as like way younger than I actually was, but then I would open my mouth and people would literally switch pronouns. And phone calls were the absolute worst. I'm one of those people, like even now if my phone rings, I will give it to my partner and be like, I don't want to answer it, I don't know who it is. So back then, if I had to make a phone call or I got a phone call and I was already feeling incredibly self-conscious about my voice, oh, I don't think I spoke on the phone for a long time. It's one of the worst things for people to look at you and read you as male and start using the correct pronouns and stuff, and then you say something to them and they switch to female pronouns. And that usually is followed up with, I'm ever so sorry. I'm ever so sorry, I thought you were a guy. And you're like, I am a guy. Number 5, swimming pre-top surgery. I never actually did this. I was too self-conscious. I didn't go to the beach. I didn't go swimming at a pool or anything for a long time. There are options out there where you can safely bind and swim. You wear like a little t-shirt over like a vest thing that can bind you. Just be very careful if you're gonna do that. But I was always too self-conscious to. I didn't want to be like the only guy at the pool wearing a t-shirt. And then just as like a little bonus one, there's also the case of, regardless of like top surgery or not, do you pack or not when you're swimming? I'd actually be quite interested. Guys, leave your comments below if you pack or not when you swim, because it was always something that I was never sure of what to do. I've never really packed. I tried it out briefly, it wasn't for me, but swimming was the one thing that I was always like, maybe I will pack, I'm not sure. But I heard horror stories about it falling out in swimming pools and people having to dive down really quick and retrieve it off the bottom of the pool, like those games that you used to play in swimming class in primary school. But then, wet material clings, if you know what I mean. So I was always like, and in the end I never have. I'm more self-conscious of it falling out than I am of people looking and thinking there's nothing there. And finally, number 6, the questions. That's it, just the questions. All the questions you get asked as a trans person. It can be very awkward and very uncomfortable, especially because a lot of these questions are just asked over and over again by a lot of different people. The questions either dive straight in or they start with, so you're trans. What's your real name? Do you have a penis? How do you have sex? Have you had, you know, the surgery? Come on, what's in your pants? Why are you still so feminine? Can you have sex? Like, do trans people have sex? Do you have a dick though? Like, come on, do you have a dick? And it goes on, it's like that, and then it just turns into like different ways of asking the same question. I think I had like penis question there about 4 times because it's the most common thing. So yeah guys, that is it for part 2. I would have done some like funny little sketch scenes in between each one to really like illustrate the awkwardness, but it's kind of strange to do sketch scenes by yourself, especially when you're trying to do like pre-T when clearly I'm not pre-T. I'm sure there are like a ton more awkward things. If you guys do have any like funny stories or awkward things that happen to you, then leave them in the comments below. I know that they can be really just horrible and awkward. How many times have I said awkward in this video? Don't take a shot for every time I've said awkward, please. But I think it's really important to be able to have a little bit of a laugh afterwards about some of it. Humor has been the way I've dealt with a lot of things throughout my transition. It might not work for everybody, but if you do have any funny stories, leave them below. I would love to read them. Come follow me on social media. The links are in the description box below. Give this video a like and subscribe if you want to, but no pressure. And yeah, as always guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Much love. Bye!